Good morning. This is Mark with Smith Fertilizer and Grain Top Performance. With me today is Charles, Derrick, and Jason. Charles, would you like to start us off with the equipment update?
Yes, equipment-wise, we're running lime. We're running dry fertilizer. Everything's working well. We just don't have enough ground to keep everybody busy. We're actually doing some fall spraying, CRP spraying this week. Weather's been perfect for that. It looks like next week's supposed to cool down, so everything's soaking in good to get everything killed. I think everything's turned in to get done. We should be getting caught up on dry lime. We got some fields that are waiting to get opened up. Outside of that, anhydrous docks, everything's completed. Grain elevators are in full swing right now, so I think everything's in pretty darn good shape.
You had talked a couple shows ago that we had purchased some new anhydrous bars for this fall use. Have they been checked over and ready to go too?
2 out of the 3, yes, have been. Haven't been tested in the field wise, but we have put new valves on them. They needed some work, but they do need some paint. But we're going to run them one season and get the bugs out of it, and probably next year take them apart, sandblast of it, and make them look like the rest of them.
Okay, sounds good. Jason, would you want to give us an update on the early yields and harvest going on?
I sure will. This year, the yields are kind of coming out like the year. We had an up and down year, and the yields are up and down. South around, the southern part of our trade territory, I hear 30, 35 bushel beans, which is really unfortunate. But, they were a little drier, and they didn't get some of the rains that we got in this timely. I've been over in the Warren County area a lot, and there's a lot of 40 bushel beans, 50 bushel beans. But Mark asked me the last podcast, do you think the late season beans with fungicide on them are going to yield better? And I have an answer today. Yes, I do. I've ran into 4 different farmers who had 3-6 beans, and I'll put fungicide on them. It had 60 to 80 acre fields, average 75 bushel. So I do believe that helped. Most of the beans in that area are running 50 to 55. And I've had a couple really good comments about fungicides. One guy told me he swears up and down it's getting him 20 bushel, and another, I know, Derrick, you said you had one at 15 bushel-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredible results. I think that bought us just enough time to get that last rain.
Good.
Because the thing I'm seeing is the pods they're full. Instead of 2 beans in them, there's 3 beans in them. And the beans aren't BBs, they're decent sized in them fields. So yes, I think that the late season rains did help us, to answer your question. And then on the corn side, I have a lot of pretty good yields. A lot of 175, 200 bushel corn, and some above that, but pretty average to pretty good yields for the conditions we had. And I think our early wets is showing in some of the wetter fields. There's some poor wetter spots that aren't yielding as good, but there's some other spots that are just incredible yields to make that average pretty good. So, talking about yields, Derrick, you did some plots. What did you come up with this week?
Yes, so this week we took out our insight plot on the corn side of it, and the hybrid plot came out really good, came out really consistent results, 222 bushel average, brand new 110-day decal number won it, so we're really excited about that, and we could really see different management in that plot. Some of the racier numbers that need fungicide and nitrogen, they show up when they need fungicide and nitrogen, and some of them that handle just one shot of nitrogen, they really showed up. So as a whole, kind of how this year has gone, the later maturities overall did better. The 110-day won it, but then we shifted over to the 115, 117-day corn that did overall did better. They went, 1 through 5 had 4 numbers, 114 and up. So the later season, based on our plot, really are showing up better, and they were only 1.5 points wetter. So that this plot didn't have fungicide on it, so we expected them to be wetter in a fungicide management. But these were pretty comparable moisture wise. So we're getting some better yield on those later hybrids. The product trial we had that we've talked about, the 12 strips, I haven't digested all that yield information, but as a whole, what it's looking like, the higher management fields, we're able to get more bushels. It's not just random areas that are, one time it yielded good here, didn't yield good over here. As a whole, the higher management areas we're able to find more bushels, and those have sulfur on it, those have micros on it, those have fungicide and insecticide. It's just we're showing that we can get more bushels. So I'm just going to put the numbers together and get all that information out to everybody. And how we're going to do that this year is we're going to make I call it a 2020 Insights packet. And we're going to make a nice booklet that has all this plot information that we have, that we're going to make enough to be able to hand out to every customer that could want one. We're working on, as these plots come out, we probably have 3 or 4 weeks left of plots coming out, and as soon as they are, we're going to work hard to get that put together and get it printed out nice for everyone to have. Figure out which products have the best return, and give that out to our customers.
That sounds great, because I rode in a combine this week. I'd like to do that some in the fall, and the customer was really excited about it. I was sitting there watching the yield monitor with him, and we were hitting 270, 275 going across the field. The field averaged 240, but in the area we're at, it was really pouring through the corn. And he asked me, did I leave some yield in the field because I didn't do more? This information you're talking about right now, that booklet explaining steps he could take to enhance that, might be what he needs to have.
Yes, and as far as that goes, finding more bushels even in a good area, we're going to use our field forecasting tool to do that this year too. We've talked a lot about that, and we can actually run scenarios to say, if you would have put that extra 20 pounds of urea on with an airplane, is that going to give you, that extra 10, 15 bushel because it ran short of nitrogen in a really, really good year. So we have ways to find this information, and so ask your salesman, ask your agronomist for this information, and we'll get it in front of you and be able to put it together. One quick thing on the plot I wanted to show you guys, we'll put a picture up for it. The soybean fungicide showed up huge in our Insight plot this year. We don't have the plot taken off yet to see what the yield is, but you can see night and day differences. The first areas where the fungicide was put on, and you'll see it on the picture, is where it's greener and it's alive, and then we skip a few and have no fungicide where it's deader, and then we have another strip where there is, and it shows up night and day difference throughout the plot. So we're really excited to take that out hopefully by next week and get that yield information for you too.
I have a question about the field forecast, and you mentioned that you had talked earlier one time that you take tissue tests within the field, send them away. Is that giving you what the field average should be, or one point within that field what you're testing?
So the field forecasting tool does work at the per field level. So it's going to take averages. I like to take, if it's a big field, 120 acres, I like to take more than one just to make sure we have a good average, make sure we're in a wet spot and that sort of thing. But what it does is represents the whole field, and you want to use the most representative spot, like the soil type that the field forecasting tool is based off of. And then it uses that average to give the recommendation for the year.
Okay. Well, as we go forward, harvest is coming out, beans are getting harvested. We have our nitrogen. Charles is getting the bars ready for us. Everything's up and speed. Nitrogen stabilizers. Derrick, can you talk to us a little bit about the different nitrogen stabilizers we are going to be using?
Yes. So nitrogen stabilizers, we have. Main one we use a lot in the tank is N-Serve. Everyone knows about that. The nitropyrin. It works very well. What we're trying to do with the nitrogen is keep it in a positive form so it stays attached to the soil. We want to keep it in the ammonium form, and that's what these nitrogen stabilizers do. We also run Nutrisphere, which is a really good, a lot more friendly stabilizer, you could say. And I'm going to kick it over to Charles to talk about how it works in our bar on our custom a little bit.
And the Nutrisphere is just on our no-till bars. It injects it right behind the liquid. The anhydrous goes in the front of the knife. This liquid goes in right behind it, so it doesn't mix in the tank. It's mixed in the ground, if you want to say. So I don't know how you want to say it, but it mixes right there at the ground. So
and we can't mix it because it's a liquid-based
It's a
product.
water.
You can't mix water with anhydrous.
cannot put it in the tank. So N-Serve mostly it always goes into tanks. We don't have any top or side rests, side kicks they call it. We don't have any of those. It all goes in the tank, and like Like over at Mila, we got Shuttles and Pleasantville, and here, Centerville. That's where we put the N-Serve in the tanks. And of course, the drawback to N-Serve is the most corrosive thing we put in a tank. So we shy away from that more to the NutriSphere. We have the same results in the field, but there's some other new products out there we're going to try this fall. Coke has a new product, I guess. We're just going to try a few new products that are out there on the market. Not near as corrosive. Not supposed to be corrosive at all.
Yeah, that'd be great, because it's difficult for us to keep wagons repaired when they sit through the summer or through the winter when they're not being used, and have it N-Serve that was left in them.
Oh.
As we try to do, we try to make sure that we run a straight load of anhydrous through a wagon to flush them out, basically, so that we can save those valves, but still, the N-Serve is very corrosive.
Yes.
Okay. Jason, do you want to talk a bit about the benefits of fall fertilizer?
Sure. The biggest benefit that we have is it's out of the way. You can go plant in the spring when you're ready to plant. Go plant. You don't have to wait for your fertilizer to get on the field if there would be a supply shortage or anything, which I don't foresee. But if that would ever happen, you have it on the field and you're ready to go. And historically, the fall is always the cheapest price you're going to get. So to keep that competitive edge on your neighbors for value and price, get it on. It's on the field. It's not going anywhere. Once it attaches to the soil, it has to. The soil has to move before it's going to erode away. So you're not going to lose that fertilizer, and you're ready to go. So and you don't have to wait for us to get there. It makes it easier for us and for you. And you can, if you do any tillage at all, you can till it in the fall. There's several benefits to the fall fertilizer, and especially with grid sampling, you don't have to wait for that process. If you're going to grid sample, get it done now, right behind the combine, and that way you don't have to wait for the grid sampling company, you don't have to wait for the lab, and then you don't have to wait for us to spread the fertilizer. So there's a lot of benefits to getting this work done in the fall. And it also has a chance to break down, and it's ready for the plant to take up in the spring when it needs it. You're not waiting, you don't have that period of time that it takes for it to work and to attach to the soil and then break down and go through all the processes that it needs to. I won't get into all that, but it's a big chemistry lesson. But there's, it doesn't have to go through all that. So we're ready to go. So that's,
And it's important that we have the grid sampling. And I do know that Derrick has put together a program for us and has presented it to Jason and Charles and I and Max on how we want to try to focus on doing more grid sampling for the fields. It's not in print yet, complete, but I do know that it is going to be getting to our salesmen the first of the week, and they'll be out visiting with different customers, explaining how this is going to work, how it can benefit them, and how they can get some grid sampling at a reduced price. Very beneficial for them. It'll help us out again, as Jason said, get the product on in the fall. One of the things that we have here is we've talked about is the grid sampling, giving you value, giving you prompt service on that, getting it done in the fall so it's much easier to work than it is in the spring. Prompt service from Smith Fertilizer and Grain, we believe it's a key point in how we can do business. I remember years ago visiting with Max that we have plenty of sprayers. We have enough. We don't need more. And he goes, I'd rather have an extra sprayer parked in our parking lot not being used as to have customers waiting to get spraying done. And that has been great for us because it's enjoyable to pick up new business because the customers see that we get the work done on a timely basis. We get it finished properly, we get it done, and we can move forward. It allows them to get their crops put in on a timely basis in the fall with the fall work being done. So when spring comes by, they're ready to go. So it's not just spraying, it's spreading the fertilizer, it's spreading the lime, it's getting trucks out there to haul their grain for them, it's getting feed delivered, it's everything. It's a phone call returned as fast as we can get the information for you. There's a lot of things we do to try to make our business prompt for you so the service you receive is what you want to have. I want to thank everyone for joining us on our SFG Top Performance program again. If you have any questions that have been raised for you from information we've given you, please contact one of us or contact one of your local agronomist. Again, thank you very much for your business, and thank you for attending.